Candidate Obama was either exceptionally naive or willfully disingenuous when he vowed to change the way Washington works. The very promise of hope and change was rooted in uprooting the Washington modus operandi. But instead of rejecting it, he embraced it all: the secrecy, the closed doors, the political favors, the near-criminal negligence. The whole process of getting licenses to broadcast, which took place decades ago, was done behind closed doors by powerful lobbies, and wealthy commercial interests got all the licenses with no public input, no congressional input for that matter. I've lived publicly and never hidden behind closed doors. Therefore, if I have gone over the top sometimes, it has been visible. Behind closed doors they had what were legendary battles, I hear, but when the doors opened there was absolute unity. Not a crack could be found, no separation whatsoever. They were locked together for the good of the community. A woman can walk miles without making one single step forward. As a child born in a harem, I instinctively knew that to live is to open closed doors. To live is to look outside. To live is to step out. Life is trespassing. I've always been interested in family secrets and what happens behind closed doors. I find that fascinating and creepy. That's why I read, because I want to know other people's secrets. It's better to negotiate behind closed doors than it is to be out throwing rocks at one another in the public square. I will not allow anyone to shut me up or shame me into silence, and I'm not going to rot away behind closed doors. Behind closed doors, I'm a crafty person. I just kind of keep doing what I'm doing, keep plugging away, kind of hide behind closed doors sometimes, which is nice, kind of the way I'd like to keep it. The big dramas that fascinate me are the quiet ones that happen behind closed doors in so-called ordinary families. We know all about actors and singers because they do interviews, but with the royals, everything's so tightly controlled. They live this strange reality behind closed doors. Others like City Hall the old way, when they could make deals behind closed doors with your tax money. The one place I never felt at all comfortable in the military was in private circles of conversation. There's a tendency, especially among young men, to objectify and denigrate women behind closed doors. I think that scandal and intrigue and all of those sort of things that occur behind closed doors, whether it's on the Hill or in the White House, people all find intriguing. I am, by nature, an honest person. I wear my emotions on my sleeve. There is no behind closed doors with me. I learned to hide aspects of my personality. Playing with girls was fine, for example, but playing with their Barbies was something I could do only behind closed doors. To someone like me, who has watched trade negotiations closely for more than a quarter century, it is clear that U.S. trade negotiators got most of what they wanted. The problem was with what they wanted. Their agenda was set, behind closed doors, by corporations. My experience: I'll never know what happens behind closed doors or why I don't get hired for something, but I've never had an experience that made me feel any less than. What the military will say to a reporter and what is said behind closed doors are two very different things, especially when it comes to the U.S. military in Africa. I'm not sure if being known opened or closed doors for me. I almost died, secretly, behind closed doors. There is a cliché that men want their women to be ladies in public and hookers behind closed doors. I want my woman to be the sharper image robot so that she can be turned off. As a historian, I'm skeptical about conspiracy theories because the world is far too complicated to be managed by a few billionaires drinking scotch behind some closed doors. But I do think that the voters are correct in sensing that they're really losing power, and in reaction, they give the system an angry kick. When I started getting so many haters and closed doors, I decided to prove that it could be done. I was a divorced single mother of 3 at the time and a size 12, not your typical model artist that labels feel work for the music industry. I don't see why people are so concerned at what other people do behind closed doors or in their lives. As Chloe, I can honestly say I've never uttered a syllable of a curse word, not even behind closed doors. A clever, imaginative, humorous request can open closed doors and closed minds. In the middle of Bleed Red coming out, a huge disproportionate majority of people in radio came to us and asked if they could have cost of livin' as a single. There was even talk behind closed doors about pulling Bleed Red because they had caught wind and heard cost of livin'. We went with that. I tend to have a lot of jokes about ex-girlfriends. They always ask me if they will be the subject of a joke, and I always tell them they won't, unless they do something crazy. They all tend to, so you know where that goes. There are no closed doors. The art will suffer. Those artists who say that somehow therapy or analysis will thwart their creativity are completely misinformed. It's absolutely the opposite. It opens closed doors. You grow and learn a lot about the industry and what happens behind closed doors over the years. We've always kind of tried to keep the mystique. We don't want to give everybody everything. You give them too much, it's just white noise. When we do say something, we want it to be an event. When we go out and do things, we want it to be an event and kind of keep everything else behind closed doors. The politics of the Cape Town Metro, which allows an executive mayoral committee to make secret decisions which affect you, behind closed doors, is wrong. If you were there behind every family's closed doors, everyone's a little wacko. Chances are that your family is no weirder than the next family or than the other girl at school's family. Everyone can be quirky at times, and I embrace that, personally. I think behind closed doors people behave differently no matter what period we're looking at. Because people have to stand up straight in public but can slouch behind closed doors, can you imagine wearing those corsets? You never know what's really happening behind closed doors. Everything isn't always what it seems. Non-Muslims in Saudi Arabia can only celebrate Valentine's Day behind closed doors. Apparently, this has led to a huge black market for flowers and wrapping paper. That is the most important thing to me, what happens behind the closed doors in the studio and makes me an artist. Texans deserve better than failed leaders who dole out favors to friends and cronies behind closed doors. It's time for a governor who believes that you don't have to buy a place in Texas' future. It's time for a governor who believes that the future of Texas belongs to all of us. What consenting adults do behind closed doors is not my business. The only time I'm not Hulk Hogan is when I'm behind closed doors, because as soon as I walk out the front door, and somebody says hello to me, I can't just say, hello, like Terry. When they see me, they see the blonde hair, the mustache, and the bald head. They instantly think Hulk Hogan. My mom was a painter and loves to sing behind closed doors. I'll never know what happens behind closed doors or why I don't get hired for things. I don't really go to clubs anymore. I'm actually quite settled, living in Highgate with my dog and my husband and my daughter. I'm not a hellraiser, but don't burst the bubble. Behind closed doors, for sure, I'm a hellraiser. Does anyone believe that Goldman Sachs is gonna give up a deal that would yield millions of dollars because someone fussed at them behind closed doors? People tend to think of Brisbane as a sleepy, subtropical place. I don't know. It's like Baltimore or something. I don't know. You would hear the family dramas going on behind closed doors. There's no platform for an insane music scene in the main cities. It's all hyped acts or showcases behind closed doors. I read about artists that are doing it the old-fashioned way and touring, as if that's a unique thing to do. Well, that should just be the way it is. There is an intimacy and trust that is needed between leaders, between their assistants and advisors. Usually, you have the real substance behind closed doors, and the press conferences, you have niceties, nice photo ops. There is lots of my work that takes place behind closed doors that is not ever seen. Visit our website for more quotes, quoting.com.